What is up, YouTube? My name is Trinity, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome to another Spooktober video. I cannot believe that we are almost to the end of Spooktober, and that I've completed almost every single video that I intended to complete this month. I'm really proud of myself because every year since I've started my channel, save for a couple years ago when I had surgery and just had to quit living, essentially, I have tried to do something special for Halloween because, I'm that spooky chick. This is literally the season celebrating everything that I am interested in and being able to share it with you guys. So I'm happy that I finally had my first successful one, and I'm hoping in the future we can do more with it. Today, we are going to be talking about the Enfield Poltergeist, which inspired The Conjuring 2. In August of 1977, Peggy Hodgson, a single mother from Brimsdown, Enfield in London, England, would make a distressed call to police, telling them that she witnessed furniture in her home moving on its own and that her two daughters, Janet, who was 11, and Margaret, who was 13, had heard knocking and banging on the walls and ceiling. Now, the events leading up to Peggy actually calling the police started the previous evening, August 30th. This is when Janet would approach her mother to let her know that her bed, along with the beds that belonged to her brothers, Billy and Johnny, were beginning to wobble on their own. The following evening, Peggy would begin to hear banging and shuffling, like heavy furniture moving from her children's room, and she would go in there assuming that they were just horsing around before bed, and she told them to go to sleep, but she found them huddled in the corner altogether. And that is when a large chest of drawers began to be pushed by an unseen force towards the door, as if it was trying to block them in the room. Peggy tried to block this chest, but she was not strong enough. Whatever force was causing it to move overpowered her. Now, I'm unsure if this account is from the same night that she called the police initially, or if it's from another occasion, but Police Constable Carolyn Heaps claimed that when she went to visit the house, she witnessed furniture levitating at least half an inch off of the ground and move 4 feet across the floor on its own. Vic Nottingham, a neighbor of the family, came to visit the apartment as well on Peggy's request to investigate the strange noises that she was hearing, and when he was in there, he claimed that he himself also heard the banging on the walls and in the ceiling, and he left the apartment feeling very disturbed. Over the 18 months that this poltergeist or haunting was happening, over 30 witnesses would claim to see furniture moving on its own, along with other very strange events. These would include other objects around the home seemingly moving on their own, pools of water randomly appearing on the floor, matches that would light themselves, random cool breezes in rooms that didn't have a draft or open window, graffiti appearing on walls, and most shockingly, physical assaults by an unseen entity. These events would scare the family so badly they began to sleep with their lights on. Janet was apparently the family member that was most impacted by whatever was going on, apparently becoming possessed by the spirit of an old man named Bill Wilkins, who had previously lived in the home and had died in the family's living room after having a brain hemorrhage while sitting in his armchair. And while I can't say much for whether she was possessed or not, the story of what happened to Bill Wilkins was apparently confirmed by his son Terry. Janet would be recorded speaking in a deep masculine voice and retelling how Bill had died.
I want you to tell me whether you remember what happened to you when you died. Just before you died and just after you died.
Days before I died, I went blind. Then I had an hemorrhage and I fell asleep and I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
This was very convenient because prior to Janet beginning to speak in Bill's voice, she would mainly make animalistic sounds like growling and even barking. I will note that this voice of Bill Wilkins began after Maurice Gross, a paranormal investigator, said to Janice during an interview, All we need now is the voices to talk. Now, this case was very well covered. It got regular updates in the Daily Mirror, a UK publication. That was until in 1978, an unnamed priest came to the home, and I assume he did some sort of blessing. And Peggy said it was after this that the activity finally calmed down. It didn't ever fully go away, but it decreased dramatically. According to her son Billy, who stayed in the home with his mother until her passing in 2003 at the age of 73, there were still the occasional sounds and feelings of being watched, but those were just things that they learned to live with. Something rare that we don't normally see in these cases is that the family that moved into the home after Billy had finally moved out, who allegedly had no knowledge of the entire spectacle of the Enfield Poltergeist, apparently experienced their own paranormal events. Claire Bennett moved into the same apartment with her 4 sons, and she said immediately she just had the feeling of being watched all the time, and her sons would regularly be awoken by noises and voices coming from downstairs. They did eventually learn about the history of the home while still living there, but that would not be long-lived, as the final straw was her 15-year-old son waking up to an unknown man apparently entering his room, and they moved out only 2 months after moving in. Now, considering this case is an entire series about covering the most famous cases of Ed and Lorraine Warren, you may be asking yourselves, where did they come in? They did come to investigate this home for 1 day. And according to Guy Playfield, who was another paranormal investigator there, they showed up unannounced. They were uninvited. And if I may also remind you guys, they live in Connecticut, and this was taking place in London, England. So either they were already there for a separate reason and decided to just drop in unannounced to this random family's home, or they hopped on a nearly 11-hour plane ride to visit this random family without trying to contact them at all about them coming and wanting to help. Guy also alleged that Ed Warren mentioned being able to make a lot of money off of this case. So what do I think actually happened? Now, it is widely believed that the Enfield Poltergeist is a very elaborate hoax put on by the family, or at least it began as a prank by the daughters, most likely, and it kind of spun out of control from there. Now, I don't know exactly how they would have faked moving the furniture, but maybe they just kind of created enough hysteria and a tense atmosphere that people couldn't fully trust what they saw, and therefore they kind of got caught up in the excitement and the hype of being in a haunted house and misremembered what they saw. But there were also a lot of circumstances where Janet and other family members were actively caught fabricating parts of the case. Janet was caught on camera bending spoons, which I guess was another thing that was happening in their house. And she and her sister admitted to faking some of the things that happened in order to see if they would be caught by the other paranormal investigators there, which they often were, such as taking a broom and banging it on the ceiling, or investigators not being allowed to be in the room when Janet would begin speaking as Bill Wilkins. In an interview, in my opinion, Janet kind of slipped up when she was asked what it was like to be in a haunted house. And she said something like, it's not haunted, but then she kind of caught herself and explained she didn't feel like the house was haunted because she didn't think that it was a malevolent spirit. There are many unsettling images from this case as well that seemingly depict Janet being possessed. I'm pretty sure I read it somewhere, but I wasn't able to find it after the first time I read it. I think that her and Margaret, or at least one of them, were in gymnastics, and therefore they were very flexible. They were able to kind of twist themselves into uncomfortable looking positions. And there's also these pictures that I'll put on screen of Janet supposedly levitating, and it's very obviously just her jumping, like jumping off of her bed and stuff. And I'm so blown away that anyone could actually believe at least those pictures. Like, come on. Janet Hodgson jumped so that the realtor witch could fly.
Do you think witches can live in the desert? Let's see. Oh! Desert wizard! Oh! Oh! Kind of looks like a 5-layer cake. It gives me an idea. Oh!
Now, Janet was apparently pretty unhappy with the announced release of The Conjuring 2, saying that she didn't want her story to be dredged up again and people to go over it, so make of that what you will. It could have been her not wanting people to poke around into the story and see that it was most likely a hoax. Or maybe she was just bitter. I mean, as we've gone through these cases, a lot of people seem to be very bitter about the Warrens because they made a lot of money off of stories that weren't theirs. We are going to be closing Spooktober on talking about the Smurl family haunting, which is the case that inspired The Conjuring Last Rites, the alleged last Conjuring movie in the Conjuring universe, though I think there is going to be a show coming out, if I've heard correctly. I'm not exactly sure why I chose that to be the last video when otherwise I have not been going in chronological order at all for the rest of these, but oh well. I plan to maybe do like a really relaxing stream on Halloween or something to like, just hang out, maybe play a video game or something and hang out with you guys. However, I have to work a closing shift that day, which feels like a personal attack on who I am as a spooky person, so pray for me. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button. It might not seem like a lot, but liking and commenting are the two best ways to push my videos out to other spooky-minded individuals that might want to join our community. It really helps so much for literally a second of effort, not even. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I upload. You'll especially want to do that because you do not want to miss the last episode of this series. I'm sorry, I'm going to glaze myself a little. I am so proud of myself for being able to work around my work schedule and school and actually complete something on this channel. It makes me a little emotional because it makes me feel like I'm growing, like I'm almost a YouTuber. And also down in the comments below, let me know what you think of this video. Do you think that this was a true haunting? I'm not able to confirm what happened with the furniture, so maybe there was a nugget of truth in this. Or do you think the whole thing was an entire hoax? And do you think the Warrens were weird as fuck for just showing up on these people's doorstep? Or if you have any suggestions or just anything else to add to the conversation, leave it down below. Remember, every video, as long as I get different and interesting comments, I want to read out my favorite comment in every video. From my last video, the trial of Arnie Johnson, which inspired The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, my favorite comment came from SamIam_3 again, which thank you so much for commenting on every single video. I do hope to start mixing it up because it seems a little unfair to pick you every time, but I still do appreciate your comments. Another great video, made my morning as I get ready for work. I agree with you, drugs will have you thinking you possessed. But I know there are forces that we can't measure with science, yet I have to send you my spooky story. Also, I'm glad you ended your comment in that because I also want to remind you guys that I do now have an email open to you guys for you to send in your own personal spooky stories. Once I get a good number of them, I want to start a series where I read out subscriber spooky stories. So if you want to be part of that, be sure to email me at the email displayed somewhere on the screen. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you guys so much. I love you. Happy Spooktober, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.